poetry is what you want and poetry is what you need, then we have got good news for you because poetry can be your steed. Welcome to the Poetry News with Martin and Eddie. How's it going, Eddie? You good?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm all right. How are you, Martin?
Yeah, doing really well, thanks. Spring has finally properly hit, so we're down to 2 or 3 layers. Hopefully, we'll be down to 1 layer at some point. How is it over?
Yes.
How is it over in Batoon?
Oh, it's amazing. The sun is out. The beaches are open. It's summer already here, and we're happy. Finally.
Well, I am not jealous at all. But yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, we've got a great show coming up for you today. We have Nottingham Poetry Festival, we have Soothing Sundays, we have Jax Poetry Festival, and we have a very, very interesting, to us anyway, poetry form. And we start because poetry does begin at home. And I am from Nottingham in the UK, as you know. And we start with Nottingham Poetry Festival, which runs from the 6th of May to the 15th of May in Nottingham. That's right, a 9-day festival in my soulful city. The festival is in its 6th year, and it will also be my 6th time. And I believe it's the biggest festival yet. Quoting from their website, they say, Nottingham Poetry Festival shines a spotlight on the city's thriving literary scene. For 5 years, the festival has presented eclectic lineups of nationally and locally acclaimed poets and performers. And at the time of recording the show, there are currently 82 events scheduled across the 9 days. Some big, some small, some free, some not, some in person, some hybrid, some online. We've got famous national poets like Roger McGough. We've got word walks, discussions about accessibility, slams, smut. There is loads going on. Personally, I can't wait. And if you fancy coming along for the ride, then you can check out more at nottinghampoetryfestival.com. What do you think about this, Eddie?
It sounds amazing. Honestly, I've never been to a poetry festival. There aren't any here. It just never happened that I was in a country while a poetry festival is out there. But it sounds amazing. 9 days, first of all. I mean, any other, like even music festivals or any other festivals are usually for just 2-3 days, and then a poetry festival for 9 days. That's amazing. And 89 events, and there are various types. It's very diverse, from talks to slams to performances to big names to coming up and coming artists. It's a lot, and it sounds amazing. I wish I could. No, I wish I could be there. I can't, but I wish I can.
Well, I mean, hopefully one year you can, Eddie. I mean, obviously it's running every year and it's pretty well established now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I think it's grown into what it is, and it's taken a number of years to do it. I remember the first festival, I think, was back in 2015. And it was a small number of events spread out over a few weeks. So you might have one event, and then there might be 4 or 5 days until the next one. And then it's gradually sort of boiled down and coalesced into one very concentrated block of poetry. And it's something, it would be great if there was one out in Batroun or somewhere in Lebanon or somewhere where you could get to. Because all the poets in the city just kind of throw themselves into it, and you share the poetry and the exhaustion together, and it's kind of a really beautiful thing.
Exactly. It does. Oh wow. I'm trying to imagine like what it would be if we had like Batoon Poetry Festival, and I'm imagining it like at a large scale, like compared to compare it, or to imagining it in Batoon, it's going to be small, and then a massive scale in Nottingham. I want to be there.
Well, the thing is, it's almost like a whole kind of chicken and egg thing. It's like if you provide a festival, people will come, and people will come kind of if there's a festival, and it's a case of one very much inspires the other. I mean, the Nottingham poetry scene 10 years ago is nowhere near what it is now, but partly through the festival and certain collectives that have formed around it, it's grown into it, because it's amazing how many people are into this art form but just don't know it yet.
Exactly. And maybe they don't have the space for them to explore this. Like I know when the poetry scene started in Batoon, for example, which is like an hour away from Beirut. Uh, at first, it was very shy, and not a lot of people knew that they enjoyed poetry until they actually showed up to performances or to events related to poetry, and then they were like, "Oh, this is amazing! I will show up every other time." So it's amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, we will get you to a poetry festival one day, Eddie. And if anybody wants to send Poetry Global Network a whole load of money so we can get poets all together for a poetry festival, then you know what to do. I don't think anyone's actually going to do that, but you know, I probably wouldn't do that. I'm too skint to do that. But hey, here's hoping. So, without rambling too much and getting too off topic, Nottingham Poetry Festival, it's amazing. I know I'm biased because it's my home city, but it's amazing. 6th to the 15th of May, nottinghampoetryfestival.com. And we'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm the cake you're enjoying while saying that you'll start your diet on Monday, Eddie. And I'm joining you from Batoon, the north of Lebanon. And today I'm bringing you an amazing workshop, part of the Jax Poetry Festival, which takes place which is presented by Hope at Hand and Mocha Jacksonville. It's a series of events and workshops throughout April. This specific workshop takes place on April 18th at 4 p.m. GMT or London time. And here what it is about. It is titled The Triolet Romantic 8-Line Rhymes. So what is a triolet? A triolet is one of the oldest and simplest of French forms. And the workshop tries to put it in the contemporary world with contemporary poets. And going back to at least the 13th century, the triolet is a short 8-line poem with a simple rhyme scheme. Its name comes from the repetition of the key line 3 times. The host of this workshop is poet, writer, and editor Lynn Sapiak Harlan. I'm sorry if I botched the name, whose first poem, War Waste, was in the Time magazine in 1970. Wow. A lot of her poems have appeared in Women's Voices, State Street Review, Section 8, and a lot of other volumes and a lot of other magazines. Her chapbooks were published in 1997, the year I was born, actually, called Real Women Drive Trucks and Press One for More Options. And her collection of 90 poems, Twists and Turns, was published in 2019. Martin, what do you think about this workshop that brings this old form of poetry and tries to put it in a contemporary world?
Well, I love it. I mean, I was aware of triolets, but I've never particularly written a good triolet. They're actually really hard to write because you've got that line that you've got to put in 3 times.
Exactly.
That only gives you 5 lines for other things, and to really get that full message, that thing that you want to communicate, plus having that line that you repeat to have enough impact without sounding like you're repeating it because you needed a line to repeat.
Exactly.
It's got to be so concise but also so connected. It's a real skill. I mean, you know, I tend to mostly write freeform poetry, as I've said before on the show, but no, I think this is fantastic. And also the fact that it's a free event as well is really cool. And it's like I think like Jax Poetry Festival, they look like they're doing a lot of really cool workshops. In here, you know, they look like they've got a number of different forms that they're doing that you can just essentially pick the form that you're most interested in. But certainly, triolets are they look small, and they look simple, but yeah, they're really hard. But can I just say as well, your first ever poem was published in Time magazine. I
Right.
mean, that is incredibly impressive.
Right.
But then just that publishing history, I mean, that's you've got a facilitator there who's got a publishing history of over 50 years.
Exactly.
And if you're wondering, sometimes if you've not heard of a workshop facilitator, you're wondering essentially who they are, have they got the skills and the knowledge to do it. But if someone's been published consistently for over 50 years, I would say, yeah, they probably have.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And the form is difficult, but it's interesting because it is also a romantic form that puts all this difficulty in it. Like, it's tried to rhyme with 8 lines, and like you said, you want to repeat that one line, but you don't just want to throw it in there. And the facilitator is amazing. Yeah, that's all I have for now. We will continue right after this.
Hey everyone, it's Arsene, back with another awesome free 99 poetry event. And this particular one is called Soothing Sundays, the Soothing Sundays virtual open mic night, which happens every second and fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And it's hosted by Lyrically Gifted Brother. It is a safe space for all creatives, poets, singers, rappers, and comedians, and it's streamed live on Lyrically Gifted Brothers' Instagram page. It's a free 99 event. You can join the live or just sit back in the comfort of your own personal space and enjoy the show. But it's a great opportunity in a really chilled out way to connect with other artists and creatives from all over the world. And like the event says, you never know who you might meet in these virtual streets. And the event is sponsored by Sheeby Women Clothing, which again is a brand that I'm not aware of before, but I think it's also great when you get that opportunity to sort of tie in a sort of local business, a local brand like that, like with an event kind of spaces helping each other out. So this sounds like a really nice, relaxed, cool, and chilled event. Like we say, free 99. What do you think, Eddie?
It does sound amazing. First of all, like the title, Soothing Sundays, that's all we need on a Sunday, just some soothing time. And what better thing to do than to listen or perform some poetry? And this specific one honors Women's History Month, which was last month, and it's amazing. And it's a safe space, a virtual space, a safe space, which is also amazing. It seems amazing. It sounds really nice. A soothing Sunday is all I can. Just by listening to the title, I'm already relaxed and I'm already enjoying it. So that's enough for me.
Well, it's true, isn't it? And like you say, on a Sunday, that's really what you want. You know, kind of a lot of us, we still do that 9 to 5 kind of grind, which in reality is more like a 9 to 7 grind because, you know, modern life and capitalism and everything like that. And it's that's what you need sometimes, and particularly, you know, when it's streamed live on the Insta, you know, it's almost just like turning the telly on or something like that. Just switch it on, and you know, you can just sit back and soothe yourself while you're cooking your dinner or whatever it is you want to do. You know, you can be as involved with this mic as you want to be, which I think is really nice. And yeah, like especially with Women's History Month as well. There's a lot of women that haven't properly been written back to their rightful place in history yet. And the more we have things like Women's History Month, the more those things can be righted. So Soothing Sundays sounds great.
Yep.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for your thoughts on that, Eddie. And we will be back right after this.
Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Squigs, and I'm joining you from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And today I'm bringing you a form of poetry that is really interesting, that Eddie actually thought about and is going to introduce to you. So here's what I'm doing. So I'm going to read you a poem, and this poem is, the form of the poem is not very known and it's not very popular, but I really enjoy this poem because it is written from right to left. It is a poem in English, and it is written from right to left. So I'm going to read the poem. It's called Poem to be Read from Right to Left, and it is by Marwa Hilal. So here it goes. I learned my first language second. See, native I am mistaken for everywhere I go, to sun and moon, like the letter lamb. Sound like lamb, but think like a fox. Reminds me of this recurring dream, being chased in a circle like duck, duck, goose. But there were no other children. I got tired of counting the number of English words it takes to capture one in another. This poem, as I was reading it, it is written from right to left. So I was reading the word to the right first and then to the left. So let me tell you about the Arabic as a form, all right, which was coined, and it was brought to us by the poet herself, by Marwa Hilal herself. So the Arabic is a form, and I'm reading from the website. The Arabic is a form that includes an Arabic letter with an Arabic footnote. The Arabic letter was lam, and the Arabic footnote says shamsiya wa qamariya, which is, I'll explain that later, which means sun and moon. And an Arabic numeral, preferably written right to left as the Arabic language is, and vehemently rejects you if you try to read it from left to right. To vehemently reject, in this case, means to transfer the feeling of every time the poet has heard in English as only language speaker, patronizing, utter in some variation the following phrase. And so is English as a second language, as if it was a kind of weakness. Nah, I'm quoting, I'm literally reading what is there, which is, by the way, before I ask for your opinion, it is a lot. So I happen to have a reasonable or a good or kind of like an Americanized English, but and English is my third language. I learned Arabic and French, and then a few years later I learned English. And when we talk about, or when people try to mock others who have, like, their English is not the best, or those people whose English pronunciation is not the best, as though it is something bad, it really pisses me off, honestly, and it really infuriates me, because I look at that person, if a person is a native English speaker, and I'm like, and how many languages do you know? Most of them, most people would only know one. So it's this poem, and the description of the poem, or the form in by itself, is really angry, and I enjoy it because sometimes, yeah, okay, yeah, English is my second or third language, and it's, maybe I don't pronounce all the words correctly, maybe I don't know everything, maybe I do throw in a few Arabic words here and there, but still, I know more languages than you do, which is kind of like, yeah, it's an angry response to this idea that if someone mocks another for not speaking English very well, just remember that this person already speaks another language. That's one more language than you do if you're only monolingual. So yeah, but that's on me ranting on bigots. What do you think of the poem, the form, the idea of Marwa Hilal, Martin?
Well, I think it's fascinating, and I was nodding away as you were talking, Eddie, because I'm really like strongly in agreement with what you're saying, and just say just before I get to the actual poem itself, there've been some studies done where people who are bilingual are less likely to develop certain sort of brain conditions in older ages, like, for example, Alzheimer's, or the effect of it will be slower. You know, if you exercise your brain in the same way you would maybe exercise your body, it keeps it healthier. And learning another language is such an effective way to do that. You know, the healthier you keep your brain, obviously the better it's going to be. And learning languages is one of the most effective ways to do that. You know, like you said, Eddie, I have experienced people around me saying these kind of bigoted things about people who are learning English, and I feel that maybe these bigoted people have opened up to me about it because they look at me and think, oh, it would be safe to say this to this person. It's like, oh, well, actually, it's not. You know, it's really hard to learn a language. I speak sort of intermediate level Spanish. That's a language where the characters go in the same direction. It uses the same alphabet, but pretty much every sentence I make mistakes. But it's that act of trying and learning that's the main thing. I'm also one of my jobs is I teach English as a second language. People really want to learn. People try really hard, but languages can be very, very different. And so to get onto the poem itself, I've been teaching a lot of beginner Arabic speakers, native Arabic speakers. And so obviously Arabic goes from right to left. Me reading this in English right to left breaks my head because I'm just so not used to reading in that direction. And I love the way that the poem, you know, it's kind of the act of me reading the poem from right to left and it hurting my brain to do that is so on point with the actual message of the actual message of the poem itself. And I think it's something I would get more used to, but I can imagine, I think back to the students I teach, and they've probably got that every time they're reading English the other way around, because we know what we know. And if that's what you're used to, doing it another way around is difficult. But I would love to have a go at this form, and I would love to see more poems written in this form, because I think it's a really fascinating way not only to communicate a really important point, but also to educate people.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. I've known this poem for years now, and I've always wanted to introduce it to people. Like, here, look at this, and I'm glad that I finally was able to do that with the Poetry News. Thank you, Martin, for your comments.
We hope that you found some of the things we covered today interesting. Will you have a go at writing an English poem, but from right to left? If you do, let us know how it goes. Tag us in the poem. Are you going to the Jax Poetry Fest to write a triolet or another poetic form? Are you coming to Nottingham Poetry Festival? Are you a regular at Soothing Sundays? We'd love to get a conversation going with them. Their comments below. And I've been practicing my YouTuber thing at the end of these videos, so let's see how this goes. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. There we go. Awesome. And you can follow us on loads of socials. Isn't that right, Eddie?
Yes, you can. You can check us out on Instagram at the PGN Official, and on TikTok. We're on TikTok at the PGN Official. And you can check out our Facebook page, the Poetry Global Network. And if you have anything you want to tell us, if you want to send us a poem that you've written from right to left, or a triolet, or whatever it is, send us an email at thepoetryglobalnetwork@gmail.com. And like Martin said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It should be over here. That subscribe button, and share. And poetry for all, by the poets, for the poets. That's the Poetry Global Network.
Can I say one more thing, Eddie, just before we go? So we have heard that you're one of the favoured presenters amongst some of our viewers. And as triolets are love-type poems, maybe write a triolet for Eddie and send it in. You can read it out on the show. Or do it for me if you want, but I'm a lot older and less attractive. But yeah.
I'll write a triolet for you.
Thank you, Eddie. So cheers, everyone. See you next time. Take care.
Bye. Hi, and I'm joining you from Batun, the north of